Do-do-do-do.
Do-do-do-do-do. We're not
Look at
talking
us
about
writing
flowers
a
today.
jingle.
We're not talking about flowers today, but we are talking about
The
the
look of
book
a
that
king.
I've got it here,
Woo!
and it's one of the
I have it,
matte
but
covers.
you can't tell what it is.
The matte covers that are just so pretty, but so easy to get dirty.
Yeah, I find that. I love that is one of my favourite things about indie books because I've got so many of them surrounding me is the matte covers, but the fact that you can just leave fingerprints on them. And like, I don't really think I'm like that much of a gremlin, but matte
But you are.
covers prove me wrong. It doesn't.
So we DNF'd one of my friend's favourite series.
The inheritance cycle.
Oh my god, Corey, bless her. I love her to bits, but she was absolutely devastated that I DNF'd it. She
I have
also,
it still
yeah.
on my shelf here, but it may be disappearing in a future video that I need to film.
Oh no.
No.
And Jem was gutted because she was like, I recommended that series thinking you'd love it. But speaking of a total turn of events, like
I've been meaning to read this book for bloody ages.
I've been meaning to get it for ages, and then when you put it forward as an option for this, I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna bite the bullet and actually buy it because it's been again on my wish list on Amazon since it might have been you that first brought it to my attention. You've brought so many things to my attention. I don't know whether it's you or someone else, but I saw you
Spend
talk
your
about
money.
it, and I honestly think that it was very much worth the money. What did you rate it?
I put it through Corpal and it came out as 3.5, but I don't give half stars, so it's a 3-star. But I don't feel like that's a bad thing.
No,
because for me, 3 stars aren't a bad rating. I did enjoy this book. I see the future for it. So
yes,
I think that the rest of it is going to get better. What did you rate it? Probably 4.
I rated it 4.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I really really liked it, but I think as an overall book, oh, we've got a Hattie here. Hello, I loved Look for a King.
Oh.
Yes. Well, hello. I really enjoyed like the premise and the characters that we met. But I think because I'm so used to this type of fantasy being longer and more in detail, more in depth, and I just wanted more. I wanted more of Cyrus. I wanted more of Garrett's backstory and Thaddeus's backstory. I wanted more of like what happened to Augustus when he wasn't around. Like there was before
I feel like that
anybody,
might
if
come
anyone
out in the
comes in,
next one.
before anyone
Not
says
Garrett,
we'll
because
be talking
dead.
spoilers. Yeah.
That's all of the
Thank you.
spoilers.
Thank you both for choosing this series as I picked up the other day and read it in a day, read it for, and I am now going to get it physically. Yes.
That's
Like
what we
the
love to
books
hear.
are beautiful. They are
They are.
beautiful.
And
I
I'm a little bit
definitely
gutted that we're reading it now purely for like people like yourselves, because it's a special edition.
I saw. I was gutted that now that I have seen this.
Yeah,
I'm gutted I missed out on the special edition of.
not my ASMR, but like I do know there is a novella. I've got it on my list to buy.
I did not know.
Where am I trying to go?
Oh
There you
my god.
go. Like, where am I going?
Oh my god.
Yes, and it's foiled and sprayed, and it's got a ribbon bookmark and all sorts.
I'm gutted. I'm gutted that I missed out on that. But I wasn't
But
aware
it's
there was
one
a
of them that
novella.
like someone might sell it.
Maybe. Fingers crossed. But when we start off the book, we meet Augustus.
He's
And
grim. He's not a nice person, and again not to be too chaotic and jump all over the place, but You know what you're getting now. The fact that he's pretty much still the same after everything he goes through at the end.
Oh God.
I was so mad.
I was so pissed at that, so mad at that. So we
Yep.
start off with Augustus, and Thaddeus and Garrett, they're trying to train him and get him his sword skills up, and he's just throwing a freaking throws like a tantrum, doesn't he, when he doesn't get his own way, and
Yep.
he acts like the spoiled prince that you really just do not want anything good to happen to.
Mhm.
He's the character that's just like a belligerent. And Wendell, as soon as Wendell came into the mix, I was
Yeah.
like, I got an icky feeling when he was like so up Augustus's backside.
But I
Like,
did
yes,
appreciate that the minute Cyrus met Wendell, he was like, "This dude makes me uncomfy."
yes.
Talk to him.
I was like, we've got the same mindset. We've got the same mindset, and it was very much like, yeah, I'm not gonna listen to what you're saying. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna make my own way and do my own thing.
Mm.
But when when Anselm, I don't know how to pronounce it, was killed, his dad, I did actually think that Augustus was behind it, just by the way that he was talking.
I did to begin with, but in the next bit when they were talking about him lying in the bed and how his mother was crying, and just like the certain things he said, I was like, no, I don't think he could have done it. But I feel like he's got something to do with it, maybe not directly. And then when we
Yeah,
found out who it was, I was like,
not surprised. Not surprised.
"Damn it."
But I did think he had something to do with it, because he was going on about how, the way that his dad was dealing with things and
Mm,
managing things wasn't the way that they should move forward, and he had Wendell in his ear. In my mind, I thought that Wendell had convinced him to get rid of his dad,
yeah.
so that he could then step up, and that Wendell could be the guy by his side, like
Mm,
making him do what Wendell wanted him to do.
yep.
And that's what I expected. I knew that somehow Cyrus came into it, or Cyrus came into it. I wasn't, and obviously it's his look of a king, so I knew that there was some kind of, in my mind, parent trap situation, body swapping
Mm,
situation. I just didn't know how it would go down. Um,
yeah.
but when August went out to fight,
Mhm.
and then that's when it sort of clicked, that it was going to bump into Cyrus. But I thought that it was going to be more of a parent trap situation where they chose to swap. I didn't
Yeah.
realise it was going to go the way that it did, which I'm
Yeah.
glad about.
I had no idea, but who's surprised? The thing that did baffle me slightly, and I know it's set in like olden days when like there's no photos and stuff like that, but I did find it a bit bonkers. And like the first part of this story, I was like, it's written well, but it's not adding up for me. And then I loved from like the other 75%. But it was the fact that Cyrus lays eyes on Augustus and he's like, oh my gosh, it's like looking in the mirror. And I'm like, is there no propaganda anywhere?
Yeah.
You know? Um, so like I could understand if like they did, like Flynn Rider in Tangled when he's got all the wanted posters
Yeah.
up and his nose is the wrong
All the
size
wrong
and stuff
ones.
like this. Like I can imagine like being like that, going, "Oh, I look similar to him, but my nose doesn't look like that, or my face." But the fact that he completely just didn't know, I was like, no
Yeah.
poster.
That,
Okay.
that's where for me it got a 4 instead of a 5. Just the
Mm,
little things.
yeah.
And I'm fully aware that in a page is 250 odd pages long.
Mm,
There's some things I had to give, but I think it's things like that that would have just fleshed the story out a little bit more.
yeah.
And I mean, it would have made more sense, like, if there had been it'd been mentioned when he was growing up. Oh, you've got to look at the king, sort of thing, or you've got to look at the prince at that time. You've
Yeah.
got to look at the prince, sort of thing, rather than it just being this, like, obviously as a reader going into it,
Yeah.
you're introduced to these two characters, and it's called Look of a King, so you kind of know where it's gonna go.
Mm,
But rather than the characters being like, oh my god, I look like him. Oh, he's got off a cliff. Or all of a sudden, everybody just assumes this guy who it doesn't even say he looks exactly like him. It's like you've got a look of a king, and I know what we'll find out later on, but it's like nobody questioned it. Like it was
Yeah.
just, all right, you're safe, let's go. And it
Mm.
was just, it was kind of like, even with twins, even with like twins, I can't remember what the correct phrase is, but twins that like identical twins. There's
Mm.
some differences, and you can tell the difference between them. So the fact
Yeah.
that nobody sort of clocked that gave us a bit of like, it's a bit too convenient for the plot
Yeah.
that everyone just automatically believed that this guy, and the fact that he totally had a personality shift as well. Obviously, Garrett and Thaddeus.
Yeah.
But the fact,
And the reveal as well for it.
yeah,
Wendell's like
yeah,
bursting in again. I know I'm jumping all over the place, and I'm very sorry. But like
no, but
Wendell's
that
like
makes sense.
bursting in, and he's
Yeah.
like, "We have an imposter," and
Oh,
the Queen's like, "Yeah, we know."
yeah, that I didn't expect that.
Shut. No, to be fair, Dad did. I was like, "Oh my gosh." Can we go and talk somewhere private? Tilda or whatever her name is like, no, we'd rather hear about this, please. And I'm like, well, I would too, because gossip is very slow when it's not on the line, when it's not online.
Yeah, yeah. I just think when we do get the reveal about and he it was very much an eye roll moment when Wendell walked in. He's like, everybody's an imposter. I didn't,
Is that what he
although I
sounds like in your
was,
head?
yeah, everybody's an imposter. It's like a whingy, like creepy, whiny git. Um, but what it did was like a bit of a surprise to me that
Mm.
it was he was given the perception that she didn't know that Augustus wasn't, that Cyrus wasn't Augustus. Obviously they said, oh well, a mum knows her own son.
Yeah.
The fact that that wasn't brought up until Augustus came back, and then she was like, oh, I know. It did sort of say a bit weird that she it was never mentioned up until that point, that she didn't feel a bit awkward around him or whatever, and
Yeah,
she
like,
just sort of
where's my
accepted it.
son that I have raised?
Yeah, like
Sure, you
that.
can
I
just
mean,
step into his shoes. Of course.
yeah, and obviously we've talked about the reveal. We do find out that
Yeah.
he is her son. He was the twin, and she
Mm.
didn't expect. She wasn't expecting twins. She wasn't expected to be pregnant with two boys, but I'll get pregnant again, whatever. But it's, for me, that whole reveal was a bit anticlimactic because I kind of knew it was coming, but
Mm.
also the fact that his mum was just like, "Yep, yeah, I know. I'm just going to explain it to you." And then Augustus seemed to just be okay with it. Sarah seemed to just be okay with it.
Mm.
And even though he'd been lied to his whole life, his parents, who he thought were his parents,
And everyone
like,
has
were not.
died. Like,
Yeah,
everyone this kid is given to, they're dead. Osbert's dead. Edgar's probably dead.
yeah. And it's just like, there was no time for him to reflect on the fact that the people he thought were his family or that had taken him in. And
Mm.
at this point, like, obviously, he still doesn't know that Fran's alive.
Yeah.
Like, there's no time for him to grieve that or like come to terms with the fact that, oh shit, I'm actually royalty. There's like, it just seems
Yeah.
like it was just brushed over sort of, and it was like, right, move on, let's go defeat Simeon now together as brothers in arms. And I was like,
I have a brother. Do you want to build a snowman? That's how it felt.
yeah, it just, what would have been, what would have been better for me as well is to give
Mm.
more of a background and lore of the the world
Mm.
before going into this. So finding out
Yeah.
afterwards that the reason she kept Cyrus a secret, or Cyrus, whatever his name is that the second born has to be given to the Old Haven,
Yeah.
and basically is kept a prisoner and that's just the way that the agreements have worked. Okay, he's my child. Look them up. But the fact that we're told that after the fact,
Yeah.
and it's still sort of it's addressed, but then it's just kind of like, and move on.
This is cool. This
Like, I
isn't
gave up
weird.
I gave up my child to live in the poor, like, to
In
live
the
his
low
life, like,
country.
yeah, in the low country. And I'm like, are we not going to address this? Have like a conversation? And she's just like, oh, my sons are back together, and it didn't sit right that
Yeah.
Augustus was seemingly okay with this, and he's like, oh, I've got a brother, and I'm like, have you
But
actually seen
my question is, when Augustus comes back after being deaded and captured, he like rocks up and he's like, yeah, I know all about this. But I'm like, where from? Because did I miss that? Like
No,
Simeon
I
is
don't know
like
either.
locks him up and like makes him do this deal where he wants his brother, and for some reason he wants Matilde as well, which doesn't really
That's
make
never explained.
no. It's just like, yeah, well, I think that's more because it was like, I can take you to her. I can do this.
Mm.
But like, how did Simeon know about him? Because there was no like, because in my head when I was reading it, I was like, oh, we could do like some really cool like misdirection here. Like, look over here. How do you get there so fast? Oh my gosh, you can teleport, kind of thing. So it's the same bloody
Yeah.
person. But they just rode up, and it was like, yeah, you said you wanted my brother. Here he is. Kill him.
Yeah.
How did you know?
Yeah. It's this like there were just so many things that could have just been done with being fleshed out. Like the fact that when Cyrus basically just told Garrett and Thaddeus, I'm not Augustus, they were like, okay, that's fine. Let's just pretend.
Yeah.
There was no discussion. There was
No.
no time to accept the fact that,
Yeah.
and like the shock that once again Garrett had not been able to protect somebody of royal blood. It just
Poor Garrett, man. Like,
it's just like, and
he
it was
survived
just
this long, and then everyone's just dying, and he's getting stabbed with arrows, and oh my god.
everything happened so quickly. It's just like 1 minute they think Garrett's the killer of Anselm, and then very quickly, that's sort of like quashed. Then we get Sirius and Augustus dying, and it's just it. I get it that it has to be fast paced because it's a 250-page book.
But I liked that. That was one of my favorite things because there was none of this like, we're gonna frolic through the flowers and discover the world. I was like, yeah, we're in there. Like, give me the action, give me all of the politics. Like, I just want to know. And that, I think, is one of my favorite things about this book, was the pacing, because I was just like, do you know what? I've read so many books at the minute, and there's nothing wrong with slow pacing. I do also enjoy a slower paced book. But I've read so many books at the minute, and again, this is another reason why I recommended this series, because normal books have like 300, 400, 800 pages that they fill with, lovely descriptions and travel. But I love the fact that there was no travel in this book. It was like, we are here. We're on a boat. We're now where we need to be off the boat. Da, da, da. I was like, yes, just give me the interesting stuff. Don't tell me about how you've spent 2 weeks on a boat staring out over the rail at the blue expanse of the sea, imagining what your future is going to be like. Because right now, I do not want that. I just want to know what you're doing when you get there. Do that.
See,
And I thought
I
that was done
miss
really well.
that. I don't. There is a fine balance between Robin Hobb-esque crazy slow pacing and like a
Today,
ridiculously
Fritz
fast
learned how to
pacing.
wipe his bottom. And tomorrow,
800 pages later.
and tomorrow he's going to have a really traumatic event with a dog. And oh my gosh. Yeah, and again, there is a time and a place for that. And I gave the first book of the Assassin's Apprentice 3 stars as well, but that was a different 3 stars because I was like, oh, the pacing's a little bit too slow.
Yeah, it's just a balance. Like, I don't necessarily want them, like you said, to drag out like travel scenes and stuff. But the fact that we were well aware that he spends a lot of time with Garrett, learning how
Yeah.
to sword fight. We see clips and like little bits of that,
Mm-hmm.
but we're expected to believe in this short time that they've built this bond, but you don't see the bond being built. You don't see them. You know that Garrett would have trained him. You know that they would have spent. So you infer
Yeah.
as a reader that they'll have built this friendship,
Yeah.
and yes, it was sad when Garrett died,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't feel as sad as I would have done, or I didn't feel like he was as sad as he could have been, like, because we don't get to see the friendship blossom and that kind of camaraderie. Like, he sat there holding him, and he has a moment alone with him. He's closer to Garrett than Augustus was Augustus grew up, and Garrett trained him growing up, and
Yeah.
and he's been with Cyrus a short time,
Mm.
and they've built this bond, but we don't see that bond being built. We don't see any of that. We're just expected to believe that they've got this connection, and then
Yeah.
Cyrus is gutted that he's gone, but he's just. You won't cry
But
anyway, because
no, I've got to say
I wanted to
this
cry.
is where we differ, because I myself am a heartless cow, and even if you give me 700 pages of how close they were, the only book, in all honesty, that I've ever been like, oh my gosh, that's actually really sad, is House of Earth and Blood. And
Oh.
just the phrase of "I am not alone, my friends are with me," like that bit, I was just like,
No.
"Oh my gosh, this is sad." Everything else, I was like, "Yeah, okay, like that is sad, that is traumatic. Yes, I get that. Okay, you're sad." But just that part, that one character, I was like, "No, no." And
Oh
that
my
is,
God.
I think that kind of explains me as a person, really. That's the only thing that gets to me.
That one book out of all the books you've read. I mean,
That one, like, half a page is like, "I'm not alone, my friends are with me," and I was just like, "Ugh," because I was like, probably because it was like there was no romance element to it. Not a romance reader, I say it all the time. And it was just pure friendship, and I was just like,
yeah, no, I do understand that. I don't believe that there needed to be a romance element in this.
Oh, but
I
dude, how did you feel about, was it Marcia? I'm gonna
Marcia.
say that. How did you feel about that character? Because I have some thoughts.
Thing is, I like her, but
Right?
another thing is, I'm echoing. Another thing is, like, she's one of the people who Augustus was horrible to,
Yes.
and
Awful.
she still didn't question him changing, and like, as you went along with getting close to Cyrus, without sort of saying, "Oh my God, you've changed," or "You're acting differently," or like, she was
You're a
so easily,
misogynistic cow.
yeah,
What has happened? Because you're
yeah. So
expecting me to fawn all over you. I mean, she
yeah,
did say something at one point. I am not your plaything. I was like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
But that was like after he'd almost kissed her, after she'd acted like
Yeah.
all jealous or whatever. But it was, for me, it was just a bit strange that the last time she'd seen Augustus, he was pouring a fucking drink over her head.
Yeah.
And then she was
Yeah.
looking after him, and then he was being all nice and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then she was just like, "Oh,"
Yeah, this is where my thoughts came from, because I was just like, I am, well, I like to think I'm the in phrase at the minute is a girl's girl, and I'd like to think I am a girl's girl. In the fact of, like, this guy done treat you bad, and was demand, like, I get it, he's a king, he's spoiled, but when you add, like, he's trying to make her, like, he's like, I'm entitled to your attraction, I'm entitled to this. When you add that in, and then all of a sudden, like, he changes and he's nice, like, what makes you go, oh yeah, do you know what self-respecting girl is like,
yeah.
But then again, I also had to remember, like, come on, we've all been there. We've all had like a bad boy, and we're like, oh, we're gonna change them. But
Like, oh, that bump on the head changed you so much. I'm gonna forget that you poured stuff all over my head and
yes,
told me to clean it up yesterday or
and
whatever it
I'm
was.
lowborn filth.
Yeah.
That
See,
was my main thought. I was just like, could you just not? Could you just
yeah,
come on?
stand your ground a bit more and be like,
I mean, there were
bitch.
parts of her that I was like, go, just go, man. You're so cool. Because they went out into the woods, which was a bit odd, to go for a chat. And he was like,
Wait for
"Whoa,
a chat.
can you ride a horse?" I've never thought to. I've never asked. She's like, "Well, you wouldn't know because you've never asked." And she like jumps up on this horse and rides it better than like a boy could. And I was like, "Yes, you did. Like, go off." But there were other parts, and I was just like, "Dude, what are you doing? What are you doing?"
Yeah.
I did think the
Yeah,
way they ended it was quite sweet. And she's, wow. When at the end, she's like running up, "You're not going to say bye then?"
well, you basically ran off saying I'm not your plaything, so like.
When were you friends? I'm
This
confused, and
is
I'm
the
not
thing
trying
we
to
were
date
never
you.
friends. This is the thing we weren't. I see, if you're gonna bring a romance into a book, or if you're gonna bring a relationship into a book, I do love a good plot. Yeah, if you don't give me a good plot, you have lost me. But for me, it's characters. If you give me characters I can get behind, if you can show me how you've built this relationship, it doesn't need to span over 1,001 pages, but just give me something that makes me think, I could totally see how they've got this connection, like Garrett and Cyrus, like Garrett
Yeah,
taking his time, showing Cyrus how to train with a sword, like keeping his secret, but also like trying to help him navigate all these politics and trying to pretend to be the king and all this lot. If we'd have just seen a few glimpses of that and maybe like training montages or something, doesn't need to be anything epic, but just showing me that a relationship is growing. The
yeah,
same with Marcia, showing me some of their interactions where they may have had a longer conversation, where they may have like got to know each other a bit more, where perhaps the rather than just him thinking she's attractive and then all of a sudden he's almost kissing her and I'm like, but where is this romance built from? Because the Augusta she knew
yeah,
a couple of days ago would not have went in to kiss that guy.
yeah. But then I also have to remember they're like teenagers. That is their age. And that's the thing that I always forget because like I was doing my little cool pad earlier, like tippity tapping as I do, and I was like, right, okay, well I'll look up like what Goodreads says because you know when you scroll down on the app it says like oh it's fantasy, high fantasy, age grade, and it's a YA. I was like, this is a YA, and I was like, well I suppose it is because there's like no offensive content in any way, shape, or form. Like,
No.
so I guess. So then I kind of had to sit with that for a second. I was like, okay, that makes more sense because teenagers probably would act that way. I mean, I don't know. I'm very far from being a teenager nowadays. But like I do, like it also kind of makes sense. Like adults, in theory, in like what adults in adult fantasy, obviously relationships are either like love at first sight, which yawn, or they're like enemies to lovers, which I can kind of get behind, or you actually see a lot. It takes a lot to like build up a relationship, right? But when you're a teenager, like they do just kind of go, "You're my next thing. You're my next person," and as humans, it's just like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah.
You know, like love is like all encompassing when you're. I don't even actually really know how old this kid is. But I would place him at like 16, 17.
Does it? I just do want to realize that I don't think it does tell you his age.
I don't
It'd
think
be
it
like,
does.
I think
But
it's like
well, it
maybe late
mentions that
teens.
8 years ago they fled from Core Hollow. But I don't know how old he was at that point. But yeah, I kind of place him at like 16, 17. Because that would make him if it was 8 years ago.
7 or 8.
Yeah, maybe that's a bit maybe he's like older. Maybe he's like 18, 19, because he was drinking and stuff. And again, like I don't know what the legal age to drink alcohol is in this world, but like
See,
maybe more that age where
what I mean, like
your
fleshing things
first,
out, like
your first love
coming
and
of
stuff.
age.
I kind of get that idea from it. And
That
at the
was
end of the day, like either way, like 16 to 18-year-old boys, I'm sure not all boys, but the boys I knew at 16 to 18, one thing.
I feel like I need to reread this and find out if it does say his age, because I don't think it does it?
I don't know. I just know that I reckon he was 12.
But I just feel like, well, how long was it? 250 odd pages. It could have done with 260 pages if you, just the 260 pages. If you'd have maybe made this 100 to 150 pages longer, maybe, or even same amount, but like write a bit more. The margins are huge in this one.
But what we also have to remember as well is how much it costs to write an indie book, or how much it costs to publish an indie book.
Yeah, but just make the margins smaller and write a bit more. But it's just for me. It could have got a 5-star for me. The premise was there. The writing really easy to read once you get into it. And like I struggle to physically read without an audiobook, as I mentioned many a time on my channel.
That's your catchphrase. Mine is, I'm not a romance reader.
And I'm like, I struggle to read physically, so I buy a 700-page book with tiny writing in, because that's normal.
We break immortals.
Oh god,
L1.
yeah. But like, this is a reason why I will still buy physical books and read indie fantasy, because the writing is good, the characters, the initial like development of their personalities and things are there.
Yeah.
I just would have loved to be able to see more of their personalities and like really get behind the characters, so that when the stakes were high and we thought like Cyrus might die, or when he finally found his brother and like he was told it was actually royal, like I could actually feel things with them.
Yeah. I get
I'm an
that.
emotional bitch. I want to feel the emotions.
I'm not. So I like the fast pacing. And I am looking forward to the next book. What are your predictions?
Oh, see, this is really difficult because we know that Cyrus made the deal with Simeon. I mean, to be fair, he should have just fucking killed Simeon. I'm sorry. He should have just killed him. Why are you giving him? Like, he has like slaughtered so many people and invaded people's towns and burned places, like, just, and then you just stab him in the leg and you're like, oh right, okay, I'll make
I'll
a
be
deal
back
with
in a bit.
like, I'm just, why? Just kill him. Like,
Yeah, I do kind of wish that he had just like managed to hit Augustus like I did. But at the same time, like I feel like we need Augustus to still be there, because I feel like at some point it's gonna come out about Augustus being the jackass that he is. But I
well,
will
Matilda
say,
already knows, doesn't she?
well, exactly. Yeah, she's like, I know your brother's just interested in his he's just vain or whatever it was. Like, but I
Yeah.
deserve pretty things. She's like, you go, fair play.
She's just like, I know he's a vain, but like, I deserve my pretty things too, so I'm just gonna stand out my pretty things. I'm like,
I was just happy that I was like, I'm just so glad she sees through it, because obviously their mother doesn't, and she's just like, oh, he's so amazing, and he's standing on that podium at the end of the book going, I did this, and this is how we came over this, and blah blah blah, and his mother's just there with adoration in her eyes, and so Cyrus is like, this isn't what happened.
Yeah, that bit really ground my gears. That bit, I was just like, I hate this guy more and more and more. Like, I thought at the beginning, I thought he was an ass. When he came back, I thought he was suspiciously nice, but I thought,
yeah, but I was like,
he
maybe
really
he's
did
changed.
have,
He, got thrown off a cliff.
yeah,
And
maybe he has
near-death
actually gone
experiences
through
do that to
shit.
people.
Exactly. I thought maybe he has truly changed, but no,
Mm.
he's still an ass. I'm so glad Matilda knows this, and that she's just playing him, and
Yeah.
he thinks he's got the upper hand because she's pretty and she's on his arm and like she's allied with him. It was like, yeah, but she knows she's using him for his looks and he's really just not all that much of a great guy. I
Yeah.
love that about her.
Mm-hmm.
Going forward, I don't know because what I would love to see is obviously we're only going to the second book. I would love to just get a bit more backstory into like Cyrus and Fran. We know that how they met and how they came to. I want to see more of Fran because we introduced her at the beginning. We sort of reintroduced her at the end. Again, we're told how close they are, but we still haven't seen it. We haven't been shown it. So I would like to see. I know Cyrus is gonna grow more. Like he is just. He's gonna be the character that you definitely see growth with in the second book, and I think he's gonna. I'm hoping that he gets free of Simeon and can somehow come back to Augustus and his family and basically if not be the king but be a more positive influence than Augustus is, because obviously we've got Wendell who's still trying to kill them.
Oh, he's in league with the brothers and but hang on.
I
If you
didn't
can
see that
send
coming.
brothers to like separate other people, how have they stayed together?
I don't. But it was just the agreement though that their child would go to Old Haven, not. I don't know if it's the same for other places, but I knew that I knew I didn't like Raphael when we first met him when he refused to help them, but I did not expect Raphael and his brother to be in league with Wendell trying to kill the king.
No, I didn't either,
That
and I
came
did think
out
that
of
was a really
nowhere.
interesting twist. I was like,
Yeah, I loved that. I wasn't a surprise that Wendell was somehow involved in it because
he's
he's a
everywhere. That
sleaze as
man,
shit.
like he's
He's
just
just
everywhere, and it's because, well, I reckon it's because Augustus, like as much as he was up Augustus' butt, he knows like that guy is useless and he's just interested in himself. Like I think he's very aware of it. Like he says it in the start. I am the master of the treasury or something. Like you do well to keep me as your like basically partner in crime. And like he has this like really high expectation of himself, and Augustus is like, you just basically work for me. Like remember your place. So I'm not surprised that Wendell went elsewhere to try and get more, I guess, out of life. But I did find it quite funny, and it makes sense because we're already told like Raphael and his brother, they're cutthroat, they are really quick to anger. And at the end in the epilogue, and they've met up and stuff, and they're like, yeah, we can't promise that you'll be safe. Like you might die. We're not going to protect you.
I actually laughed at that bit. I actually
right.
chuckled a bit out loud at that bit because I was just like, they're saying like, yeah, you're helping us, but we can't guarantee your life, but here's your money for your
Yeah, if
attempt.
you're going to betray your country, you might as well take gold. And I was like,
I'm like, oh my god! Like I would,
not
in a
wrong.
way, I would like to see more of them.
I think we will. I feel like at the minute we're heading towards some kind of war. That is my thought, because obviously we've got Simeon and we've got the brothers coming through. Obviously Matilde is on the same side as Augustus and Cyrus. Wow. Tired. So she'll obviously stay allied with them, I would have thought, unless they manage to kill her off, which they might. But I wonder if with Cyrus and Simeon being in Old Haven, or East Haven, which one are they in? In Old or East? Whichever way, wherever they are, I do wonder if Cyrus and Simeon are gonna like become besties, and Simeon's gonna change his course to like defeat Raphael, and they're gonna be like, yeah, you can have his kingdom.
See, yeah, it could go that way, couldn't it? Because I definitely agree with you with regards to them being a war, but I don't, because obviously the brothers wouldn't stop killing off Augustus. They'd want Simeon's land as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like
I
I
reckon
said, it
Simeon's
might
gonna
be a case of
they
they
gotta
might end
fight
up like
together.
banding together to defeat Raphael, but in a way that might be a little bit too convenient. So I don't. Sometimes I
but like
like
you might
convenience.
just try and
Sometimes
kill him
I don't.
in the battlefield. Whoops,
Like,
I
oh
think I'm
yeah,
your friend.
I'll ride with you for now, but
Yeah.
in your back.
Oh look, we've managed to defeat these people. Whoops, I slipped. Off comes your head.
Well, that's kind of what Augustus did to me. It's like, oh, I'm on your side. Let's go defeat Simeon, and then
Yeah, and then
betrayed
he's like,
them.
I told you I'd give you my brother. How did you know you had a brother?
Yeah, I think that needs a bit more explaining. I'm hoping that
I
they
reckon
might do like a
Simeon like
flashback
no.
situation. If
Like,
because when obviously
no.
when Cyrus goes over,
Hmm.
I'm hoping that like Simeon will explain, even if it's in like a the villain monologue type situation, where
Yeah.
he convinced Augustus and how he found out about Cyrus and that kind of thing. I'm hoping we find out how that happened so that will
Hmm.
clear up the gaps from book one.
Yeah.
So that I would like to know that from book two. I would like to obviously because Garrett died, but Thaddeus is still alive.
Thaddeus is
So
still alive.
I just want to know what's going to happen
What
with
happened
Thaddeus.
there?
I'm really gutted that Garrett did die because I did think he could
I
have
was
been a
hoping he
good sort of
wouldn't.
like standing father figure type thing for Cyrus.
Mm.
But again, I know that they are short books, so I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, my laptop's
It's
gonna stop.
hard to tell.
Sorry. I told him, don't call me. I said it. I said do not call me. Does he listen? No.
I think it's hard to say what's going to happen because there's book two, and there's not going to be a resolution at the end of book two, is there?
No.
So as long as it doesn't suffer from middle book syndrome, I will still get
That is
some
my
kind
worry
of
as well.
plot
Yeah.
moving forward with the characters that we've met.
Yeah.
Then that's all I can really ask is that like remove. Hopefully, we can get a bit more backstory on some of the characters or a bit more in depth look at relationships and things. But as long as the plot moves forward, it doesn't get stagnant with middle book syndrome. I'd be happy,
Yeah.
bunny.
I agree. I have no other predictions. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to getting to the next one.
Do you know what I'm surprised about as well, though? That I still enjoyed it, even though there wasn't like magic involved. It was just very much politic heavy, wasn't it? Like
Yes.
kings and princes and politics and
Wings.
different, and there was no magic, which I kind of expected going into it after reading the synopsis. But for me, magic is a massive part of the fantasy books I read, so it did surprise me that I still really enjoyed this book, even though the magical element wasn't there.
Yeah.
But it was still very much an enjoyable book.
But it still felt like fantastical-ish,
Yeah,
like,
it's like a fantastical world, and it's like
Fantasyland. I'm also there's no dragons, guys, and I still enjoyed it. So
I know. Where are all the magical creatures? I'm joking, Tom. You didn't.
Because that's usually my slogan. Like, if it doesn't have a dragon or a spaceship, I'm not interested.
Unless it's Tom Dumbrell's work, then there we go.
Tom. Well done, Tom.
So the next channel. Oh my god.
The next chat channel.
The next book we will be discussing on the Lovely Chelsea's channel
In September, right?
At some point in September, yeah.
Yeah, I need to give you my dates. That's when I go on my epic journey.
Yes. I'm on my way. But you're the beginning of
Literally, I am the Proclaimer song. From misery to happiness today.
You can wait for 10 days, don't you? You can wait for 10 days, don't you?
Yeah.
So it'll probably be the like mid to end of September so that Chelsea can go away, do her work, and come back all in one piece, fingers crossed.
Hopefully not, I don't go to prison.
I say with your sanity intact, but as intact as it currently is.
Honestly,
No more.
It's been a rather difficult week, and it's only Monday. What, Tuesday? Yeah, there you go.
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. Difficult week.
Oh, bless you. Well, thank
Oh,
you to
no.
the people that came on and said hey
Yes,
and joined us in the chat.
I
we
hope you've
will-
enjoyed reading the book.
Yes, and we hope that we're going to be taking big of it.
We hope you're going to
really
carry on with
watching-
the series with us.
That's what I was going to say. And we'll try and give more advance notice of the lives and like the next series so you can plan ahead. But we were both very bad at that.
Probably actually look at doing the next series in September, really, because in theory we should be reading No Place for Peace this month, which we totally do. We do not read the book in the same month as the live show. That is not what we do at all.
No.
So in theory, we should be reading the third book, which the name A Born Hero. I never remember where heroes were born. In September. So in theory, we should be like planning ahead, and in September, be thinking of our next thing.
Yes. If anybody
And
is
hold us
watching
to
this
that.
back, if anyone's watching this back and has any ideas on series, completed fantasy series, that
Indie or
you
trad.
can read. Yeah, in indie or trad, either or, but it just needs to be a completed series because I don't want to be doing that whole waiting a year for it to come out situation.
No, that is why we have come up with this amazing idea, because this gets things off our lists, off our backlist, and it also encourages us to complete the series that we have sitting on our shelves. Or DNFing them, as we have now discovered.
Let's just pretend that we didn't DNF. It's fine. Everything's good. It's fine.
Fine, we've completed like two series and a standalone so far. I mean, we never did a live stream for the standalone, but we read it.
We did.
We spoke about it between ourselves.
Yeah. We had a nice text conversation about how much we loved it.
we kind of did, yes. I was just very sick in December.
Yeah, let's hope that it doesn't happen again this time.
It probably will, let's be honest. But
yeah, thank you very much for joining.
Christmas.
No, you wouldn't. No sickness at all.
You're talking to the wrong person. I was known as the sick child for a long stint of my lifetime.
Well, thank you very much to everyone for thank you everyone for joining, and we will see you next month on Not a Sick Alcoholics channel. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.